Welcome to MarcusG.tv. I'm Chef Marcus Giuliano. I'm a chef on a mission. Today's mission is nutrition, healthy foods. Jamie, what did somebody ask you the other day about carcinogenic foods?
They asked if we could label our carcinogen foods on our menu.
Okay, yes, they did.
It was a comment that they left on the comment card.
So they wanted to know if we could label all the carcinogenic foods on our menu. So let's start with the definition of a carcinogen. Carcinogen is a substance capable of causing cancer in living tissue. So it's a very vast capacity of what can cause cancer in living tissue. Basically, cancer is a pollution. It's a pollution of your body, whether you're polluting your body with alcohol, tobacco, food, the toxins in food, environment at home like black mold or something. There's a lot of things that are carcinogenic. There's a lot of items that can fall under. So it's interesting that this person said if you can label those. Well, here's the funny thing. A lot of food in restaurants it's a carcinogen. That's flat out. A lot of foods are. So here's just a quick list of some of the more predominant ones. Anything that's charred, burnt, from burnt popcorn to grilled steak to crusty bread to anything that's been exposed to blacken, to darken, from heat cooking. So anything that goes in an oven can potentially be a carcinogen. Meat is a carcinogen, especially overcooked meats. The fats in meats, the arachidonic acid in meats. Sugar's a carcinogen. It's refined. It's toxic to the body. It's not healthy. Salt, bad salt, not a high quality salt. Too much salt is known. Very, very spicy foods, smoked foods that are smoked. Trans fats found in French fries, chips. Trans fats are loaded in a lot of things. When you go to a restaurant, you see, now we don't have them in my restaurant, but a lot of things like tortillas in a standard Mexican restaurant, the tortillas have trans fats in them. The chips that you're eating in a Mexican restaurant are typically fried in a trans fat and a hydrogenated oil, whether they're done in the factory or in the restaurant itself. This is cheap, inexpensive food. Artificial sweeteners, those are chemical sweeteners, aspartame. The list goes on and on. Here's another list that I found that said farm-raised fish contain a high amount of PCBs, so farmed salmon can be a carcinogen. When you cook oils, you're heating oils, you're denaturing, that can be a carcinogen. Like olive oil, you put it in a pan, you heat it, you're gonna really screw up olive oil by cooking it. I have several videos on why you don't want to cook with olive oil, because the oil becomes a carcinogen. So basically, everything across the board has potentially to be a carcinogen in your food at restaurants. So it's like, well, what in the world do I do? Well, you have to minimize the obvious bad foods. You could be eating organic spinach, organic vegetables that could be contaminated with a carcinogen. The farmer wasn't spraying it on, but maybe there's some contaminants left in the field. So the list goes on and on and on of what are potential carcinogens. So for us to label would be a huge stretch. To even to say, well, this could be a carcinogen, this could be a carcinogen, or even to leave it alone and say, well, it's not, is sort of saying I don't want to guarantee somebody that isn't a carcinogen, because honestly, I honestly don't know sometimes where food is ultimately sourced from. There's a lot of organic food coming out of China. China has a lot of organic farms. However, 60% of the water, 60% of the rivers in China are you can't drink them. They're toxic, the rivers. These are the same rivers that are watering these crops. But these farmers are growing organic seeds, and they're not fertilizing, right? Or they're using organic fertilizer, but they're using water that could be highly contaminated. So the thing with organic is, organic's a certification saying that the farmer's doing it right. But there's certain controls outside of the farmer that the farmer just can't control that may be getting into and contaminating his foods. GMOs have shown to be, in certain studies, to be a carcinogen. And our food is loaded with GMOs. So for me to actually, or for any restaurant to say, well, this is safe and this isn't, the part that we say that is safe, how in the world do we possibly know? So, to ensure that we're getting a healthier diet, plant-based whole foods diet is where it's at. You know, the fresher, the more informed, the more in its whole form the food, the better it is. Like fruits and veggies, the less cooking of things. Now certain things need to be cooked. You know, of course you cook rice, you cook potatoes, you cook beans. You should steam broccoli lightly before you eat it. But if you're overcooking things, if you're cooking things that aren't like intent, like a French fry, a potato chip, things like that, sauteing things, you know, putting oil in a pan and heating it up and sauteing it and making stir fries, those are all potential carcinogens that you're consuming with your food. So you want to do more of a whole foods, plant-based diet, food that's exactly as it was in nature. Dairy is loaded with PCBs. People say, oh, well, butter is natural and cheese is natural. It's loaded with PCBs because the fat was where it's all stored. Even whether the fish is farmed or not, speaking of farmed fish, wild fish can contain just as many, mercury. Mercury's a toxin. Mercury's in fish. Mercury's found in a lot of fish. So the list goes on and on and on. So, you know, it would be a nice thing if we could simply label things. And I had one person left a comment on my Yelp a couple years ago, you know, saying that we're serving carcinogenic food. You know, and the bottom line is you're eating carcinogenic food every single day. So, you know, minimize it, whole plant-based, less cooking, less processing, make the food yourself. Don't buy it from a can because canned foods have BPAs, which are a carcinogen, which are toxic. So as you just look down the road, it can be everywhere and anywhere in your food. I'm Chef Marcus Giuliano. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, and pass it on.